Okay, this video is going to be entitled Iboga, a gram a day for 30 days. This is just to document the still ongoing experiments I did with Iboga. I've done a flood dose of Iboga before, had the full effect, and that was and continues to be a life-altering event. It's been, I think, a year since my flood dose with Iboga, and it's taken me this long to process the experience. So, a little bit of background on how this whole experiment began. Like I said, it was about a year since I've did the full flood dose of Iboga, and I've been having a lot of problems with things lately. Some just ongoing, long, drawn-out problems in my life, and they were really affecting me, even on an unconscious level. Like, I wasn't even aware to the full extent that these things were bothering me, but so I was having a lot of trouble letting these things go. And I knew already from my original experience with Iboga, what this plant could do, how it presented everything to you from your life, the good and the bad. And Iboga doesn't really force you to deal with your problems, it just presents them to you. And while you're in the middle of the experience, you're like, well, hey, fuck it, I'm here anyway, might as well resolve some of this shit. So I wanted to do another flood dose of Iboga, but something about it just didn't feel right. Like, I was having these issues, and I don't know, I can't explain it, but something just didn't feel right. I didn't think that these problems I were having, they're pretty big problems, and they were really, really bothering me, but it just didn't feel right. It didn't seem like enough of a reason to do Iboga again. I mean, everyone has problems. And that's one thing, a trend I'm starting to see with all these sacred plants, not just Iboga, that people are starting to rely on them almost like an oracle. Like, the plants themselves are becoming the shaman. Every time a person has a problem, they go and they dose, and they I really don't, personally, for me, that I don't think that's the right way. And I've definitely, in my last few years of journeying with these plants, and I don't know, I guess through my whole life, I've learned to trust my instincts. So, the first thought that came to mind to deal with these problems was a flood dose, but like I said, something just didn't feel right about that. So then I remembered with the Iboga, I remember reading that people took daily low doses of Iboga for depression, for as maintenance doses for their addiction treatment. Like, they'd do their flood dose initially, and then they'd take little bits of Iboga on a daily basis as, just like aftercare for their addiction treatment. So I decided to give it a go. I had a 30-gram bag of Iboga root bark that I had run through my coffee grinder and turned into a powder. Now, Iboga root bark, when it's dry like that and powdered, it takes a pretty sizable little pile to equal out to a gram because it's so light and fluffy. Actually, I had two different kinds of Iboga. I had Iboga from two different batches, two different orders I had received. Now, I'm going to issue my disclaimers and my warnings again right now. As with Iboga or any of these sacred plants, take your time, do your reading, do your research. There's no fucking rush. Do your test dose. Do your allergy test. Do your test doses. Because these are plants, and plants don't always grow the same. No two plants are alike. The chemical content in these plants is different depending on what time of year it is, depending on how much light or shade they get, depending on whether or not they're growing beside a water source. There's so many variables. So every bag of Iboga you get is going to be a different strength. And the first bag of Iboga I started with, it had an effect. It was pretty potent. But when I ran out of that and I switched over to the second bag, which was an entirely different color, it was like at least twice as strong. So do your allergy tests, take your test doses. Being a psychonaut is a reckless enough pastime that you don't have to be putting yourself at unnecessary risk. And it's partly about not putting yourself at risk, and it's partly about using these plants responsibly so they don't completely fucking outlaw them, and then future generations don't have these plants to enjoy and explore with. Okay, there's my rant on that. So, day one, I take a small dose of Iboga. I feel some effects from it. It's really hard to gauge the effects of Iboga because it's a very dreamy effect. You have to be really paying attention to notice the little subtle variances in reality. So not much of an effect the first day. But I go home that night, I go to sleep, and bam, right into this dream. Like literally, as soon as I fall asleep and start dreaming, my dream starts off, and I'm faced with the exact problems that have led me to take this Iboga in the first place. And these were not pleasant dreams. They were hellish nightmares. But I mean, to a point, to a purpose. I was dealing with the subject matter that had led me there, in the first place. So, for the next 3 nights, this dream, I woke up from the first night, and, went through the day, then came back home, went to sleep, and the dream picked up off right where it left. So for 3 days in a row, I go through these hellish visions and dreams, but actually at the end of the 3 days, I just reached this point where it made me face these things and deal with them and come to a point of acceptance. And that's really where I ended up with the issues I was having. I came to this level of acceptance where I realized that there's nothing I can do about it, and that it wasn't my responsibility to do anything about it in the first place. So, it did exactly what I was hoping it would do. But after the 3 days, I decided, hey, just for the sake of research, just so I can say that, I've done it, because there's not a lot of decent information out there. There's a lot of, you can go to Wikipedia and get some pretty quality information about Iboga, but as far as people's experiences with it, you can, on all of YouTube, you can find a few, maybe a handful of decent accounts of flood doses, but not much information beyond that. Not a lot of people talking about daily low doses and just really taking the time to get to know the plant. So I decided to continue on with the daily low dose for 30 days, 30 full days, just to see what it would do. Okay, beyond my usual warnings, one thing I will tell you is that Iboga, it's used to treat addiction. Iboga does not interact well with a lot of other substances. As I discovered, alcohol is one of them. So if you are taking daily low doses of Iboga and you go out and drink for the night, firstly, it won't feel the same. You can drink and you can get drunk, but something just feels different about it. Something feels off. It's just not the same. And then, when you wake up the next day, you will be greeted with an unholy hangover from the depths of hell. Yeah, Iboga does not mix well with alcohol. And yeah, you'll have like an amazing hangover the next day. Even if you only have a few drinks, it's a pretty dramatic effect. So if you are going to be using the daily low dose of Iboga for whatever therapy or whatever reason, yeah, be prepared to not mix anything else with that. There are no cheat days when taking Iboga. So, general effects through the month. What did I notice? It was and continues to be quite an interesting ride. I definitely, my mood and my sense of well-being was definitely increased. I felt an extreme surge in creativity. I was writing a lot more. My mind was just racing, but it was focused and to a point. Very inspired feeling, very creative. And then there was all the sensory effects, smells. If you caught a whiff of something that smelled good, it wasn't just your brain processing the smell. You smelled it. It got inside you. It became you. It was a memory of some other happy time when you'd smelled that smell. It was amplified. It was that much more beautiful. And then taste, and then the combination of taste and smell together when eating and drinking. I gotta tell you, a few days into the Iboga, and a decent cup of coffee would almost get you off. It was just, epic. Food tasted amazing. Food tasted so much better. Like the enjoyment I got out of a salad or a steak or whatever was just fucking amazing. But the coffee, well, I just love coffee to begin with. So, yeah, coffee was amazing. So good. And you didn't just drink the coffee because it was the morning and because it was full of caffeine. You drank it and you savored it. Like every drop in that cup was beautiful. It was just something. There's only so far I can describe it. And then I really noticed that through the day, just randomly, I'd catch myself daydreaming. And even while I was just, awake, I'd just catch myself thinking about little weird, awkward moments from my life, embarrassing moments from my life, and, things that just, randomly pop through your head, even without Iboga. But on Iboga, when you think about these little things, you sit there and you dissect them, and you wonder why it made you feel that way, but with all these things being amplified, I should touch on that one too. One day, on the Iboga, I get mad. Somebody came along and they pissed me off. And there was this, the big swell, the big surge of anger. It just ran through me, pulse and adrenaline, fucking, and, I got really mad. I was going to stop myself and just, go do something else. But then I was like, no, wait. I'm mad. I have every right to be mad. I'm not stopping being mad. I'm going to ride this one out. So I let myself be mad. I didn't cut it off. I didn't count to 10. I didn't take a deep breath. No, I just let it go. And I let myself be mad for a few minutes, and then I started thinking about it. And it's like, you know what? Why did I get mad about this situation? And then I finally came to the conclusion, well, I got mad because it offended my pride. And then I thought, well, pride's not a very good thing. But then I was like, you know what? Fuck that. It's like, I spent a lot of years working on myself to get where I am right now. And I have every fucking right to be proud of myself and to have pride. I've never had pride or self-confidence or any measure of an ego before. And, it's like, you know what? Yeah, I am fucking proud. I do have pride. And it's warranted. It was earned. So, after letting myself be, mad for 5 minutes, it comes for full circle, and I ended up, standing there feeling really fucking good about myself. So, yeah. Iboga taught me that little lesson that negative thoughts and feelings and emotions aren't necessarily a bad thing. I mean, it's bad to deny them. It's bad to suppress them. I don't think you should let them consume you, but you definitely should let them run their course. You should let those thoughts come to their end. Because through the experiencing of these negative things, they betray their weakness. If you constantly suppress them and never let them run their course, you're just weakening yourself to the next attack. Yeah, so I'm noticing all these things, these sensory things, smell, taste, thoughts and feelings. Everything seems amplified, but it's all to a purpose. It's all amplified. It's all to a point, and it just all seems so big and bright and shiny compared to usual. And I'm very hesitant to attribute all that to Iboga. Ugh, excuse me. I don't think it was the Iboga that was amplifying everything and making everything brighter. I think it was the Iboga just allowing me to let go of all these preconceptions and controls that have been placed on me through my entire life, these learned behaviors. I think Iboga just gives you the ability to feel things the way you should feel them, to just be, to just exist, without all this other crap that gets just pounded into your head. Yeah, I think the Iboga focuses you enough. It helps you push all that other white noise, all that other background babble out of your head, and lets you focus on yourself long enough to actually be happy. Iboga is not a cure-all. Iboga is not the answer. Iboga is a hint. It's a guide. If you're willing to, it'll show you the path. It'll walk the path with you. But Iboga is not the path itself. Now, after the 30 days, the dreams kept up through the entire 30 days. Sometimes they were sometimes the dreams were about issues in my life, or internal issues with myself, or whatever. Sometimes they were helping me sort out stuff. But then other times it was just pleasure-based dreaming. Like, I had a ton of flying dreams. Like, it wasn't what I would call entirely lucid dreaming, but I've always been an insanely vivid slash lucid dreamer, so I might not be the best person to judge that. It wasn't what I would exactly call lucid dreaming, but you had a lot of control. Your brain would almost generate the background story, and as soon as the background and the setting was built, you could take over and do whatever you wanted with it. And another sleep effect I noticed was that crossover point between awake and asleep. Iboga also gave you control over that, which was really weird. You know how if you're having a nightmare and things are getting really crazy and you're like, wake up, wake up, wake up, trying to wake yourself up, on Iboga, there's no issue with that. You just like, just the dream will be playing out and you're just like, I don't like this, and you just wake up. It's simply a matter of willing it. You just wake up. But I noticed that middle ground, the space between dreams and awake, Iboga kept you lingering there for quite a while. During the 30 days, I'd catch myself a lot of times. I'd have a dream and it'd just be getting really, really intense, and then I'd wake up and I'd be like, I'd sit there for a minute because, it was such an intense dream. Not always negative, but I'd sit there for a moment and just catch my breath or whatever. It's like, wow, that was messed up. That was intense. But if you woke up, you sat there for a minute, and if you laid back down, you would go directly back into that dream you left. Through the 30 days with experimenting with different time frames, I found that I would have to sit up in bed, stay awake for at least 10 minutes before I would finally be back in the waking world all the way, and I could lay back down, go to sleep, and start off with another dream. Had no issues sleeping except that I kept waking up from dreams, but I didn't feel, tired or run down or anything. Still get a very good night's sleep. It was just very active dreaming. But after the 30 days, so the 30 days are over now. It's been almost 2 weeks. I think it has been 2 weeks. Now I'm suffering from some of the residual effects. I've had a few very restless nights where I couldn't sleep. It's not the same thing as insomnia, because I get insomnia really, really bad sometimes for 6-8 months at a time. But I've had quite a few restless nights where I had a lot of trouble sleeping. But it's definitely not definitely not insomnia. It's still a lingering effect of the Iboga. The dreams still continue, still bright and vivid. I've noticing the control over it. The lucidity has been wearing off somewhat, but the dreams are still very vibrant and interesting, and going home and going to bed in the evening is really the highlight of my day. So what have I learned from these 30 days with Iboga? I've learned that there is still so much more to discover about this plant and myself. And I've learned that it is possible with these sacred plants you can discover just as much about yourself. You can solve and just as many problems and heal yourself just as much with low doses. You don't have to go for the big exploding dose, explode your head. You do not need to take a flood dose of Iboga to reap the rewards. And just with being a psychonaut in general and being a traveler in general, you do not have to do Iboga or do ayahuasca or do whatever every other weekend. You take a really decent psychedelic dose of mushroom, a visionary dose of mushrooms, and you go on that journey, it should take you like 8 months to a year to process that information, to come to terms with everything you've seen when you crossed over to the other side. This is not recreational drug use, folks. I see a lot of people on YouTube sharing their accounts, and I've been following their YouTube channels, and like this one chick in a year, she's done, I don't know how many ayahuasca ceremonies, she's done Iboga, it's like, and I don't know, hey, if you want to do that much that often, at least be honest with yourself and be honest with the public and say, yeah, I just wanted to do it again. Because after one flood dose of Iboga, that pretty much set my life in order. I still did a lot of other work, self-improvement on my own, but you don't need to, it's... she was saying, oh, I did ayahuasca this time, and then I did it this time, and then I did it that time. And after a while, you find yourself questioning, it's like, if you're telling me ayahuasca is just such an amazing medicine that can really heal you and help you with your problems, it's like, well, it can't be very fucking effective if you gotta do it every other weekend. If you've got to do ayahuasca every 2 weeks, it's like, okay, either it's not as effective as you're letting on, or you're a really fucked up person who has a lot of demons. It's like, how much healing do you really need to do? Like, it's like you've been doing this stuff for a year now and you're still not healed? You're still, searching for answers? It's like, I don't believe you. I don't think that you're healing. I don't think you have fears or demons or issues. I think you just enjoy it. It is very bright and pretty and vibrant and on the other side, but it's not Hawaii. It's not a vacation spot. Treat it with the reverence and the respect it deserves. We're guests there. But anyway, before this turns into an hour, I just thought I'd share that. 30 a gram of Iboga a day for 30 days. Am I glad I did it? Hell yeah. Do I recommend it for everyone? Hell no. Oh, other thing. If you are actually considering taking daily low doses of Iboga for depression, for maintenance on your addiction treatments, for whatever reason, a gram a day, I've actually read on a lot of websites where they say if you're going to do the daily dose, a gram's a good place to start. In my experience, that is incorrect. In my experience, a gram is too much. A gram a day, for most people, would be way too much. Start with a quarter of a gram. After 5 days a week, if you really don't feel that's enough, kick it up to half a gram. This is pretty powerful stuff. So start with a quarter of a gram and work your way up from there. Scale up from there. Jumping right into a gram a day is not a good idea. I wouldn't recommend that for most people. Alright, so that's it for me tonight. Peace.